Coming to you from the My Little Falls studio, here in beautiful Little Falls, New York. It's your host, Scott Kinville, and another episode of Marty's Illegal Stick.
And what's up, hockey fans, and welcome to episode number 23 of Marty's Illegal Stick, being recorded here Wednesday, April 28th, 2021. You know, I thought maybe a fun little game for us to play. When I announced that the episode number, maybe we could have just saved the first player that comes to our mind. What do you think?
What episode number are we on?
Number 23. So it
has to match their sweater.
Jeff Bookaboom.
See, now Jerry's in the spirit of things, right? I said Dustin
Jeff,
Brown.
Outstanding.
Dustin Brown.
Bobby Nystrom.
All right. Well, we got some answers already. I like it.
There you go.
All right. Well, here, so we can get going with this show. Now I just distracted everybody with jersey numbers. I'll bring in our panel really quick here. First of all, as always, my father, Leo Kinville. How we doing?
Oh, top shelf, Scott. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay, let's get the show on the road. This is going to be fun.
I don't know if I can get any higher than top shelf, but, I can try.
Well, I know you.
And up next, the doctor of hockey, Dr. Keith Levatino. Keith, how's your dinner?
Me and my Tostitos are here for you guys.
I understand you just set the world land speed record getting back home.
I was hoping I would be stopped by a police officer so I could say, Marty's illegal stick? Oh, no problem.
Yeah. They'd let you go.
Oh, yeah.
They'd let you go.
Yeah. And it'd be like, well, I was going to reduce it, but not anymore.
Not anymore. Thanks for having me.
Hey, absolutely. Anytime, buddy. You know that. Up next, our producer who's back, Dave the Save Warner. How you been, buddy?
I've been here.
You've been back,
time.
but I mean, I kind of, let you ease your way back in.
I'm easing back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
How you doing?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. All right. And last but certainly not least, our friend, my teammate, the almost champions of COVID Cup 2021, Mr. Jeremy Roberts. What's going on, Jeremy?
How you doing, Scotty?
Not too bad. Recovering from the weekend.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit sore, but
yeah, we had to play 2 games in 2 nights, and for guys like us, that's going to be a big ask at this point.
yeah. It was a little draining. I mean, like I said, I usually play Monday nights and Wednesday nights, and I took Monday off, and I'm taking tonight off, so I'll get back to it next week.
Yeah, but we would do it all over again. You know that.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. And up next, I want to bring our guest in for today's show. Our guest is a former New York Ranger. He was a 5th-round draft pick of the team in 1995. I want to bring in Mr. Dale Purinton. Dale, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. How you guys doing?
Oh,
doing fantastic. How you been?
I'm doing really good, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me to your show.
No, we're glad to have you. So as we were talking before we came on the air here, you've been doing some hiking?
Yeah, I get out quite a bit. There's just I live in British Columbia, so we're just surrounded by mountains. But the problem I'm having is once I get up there, it's getting back. It's not like I can just step off the treadmill, or when I was getting my whole career, I got bag skated. I could just stop and walk into the dressing room, but the hiking, you got to finish it. So it's a bit of a challenge at times.
Otherwise, call for a chopper, right?
Yeah, that's right.
fight the bears too.
It's funny you mentioned that.
Call the Coast Guard with high blood pressure.
It's funny you mentioned that because I remember Rocky IV, that scene where Rocky climbed to the top of the mountain, he puts his arms out and he's yelling Drago. That was actually filmed in British Columbia. I don't know if anybody knows that or not.
Yes.
And I always thought,
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
Yeah.
No, he was never in Russia that whole time. I felt so cheated when I found that out.
You just completely ruined the movie for me. It's my favorite one, too. It's the only one I really like.
Jeez.
So I was just kind of wondering how he got down from that mountain, because if you look at that helicopter view, it's like, wow. Number one, how'd you get up there? And 2, good luck,
Yeah.
But anyway, so Dale, you said you're in British Columbia now. Originally, you're from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Is that correct?
That is correct. My dad played for the Fort Wayne Comets, and in 1980, we moved back to Sicamous, BC, in the interior. So I live between here and Vancouver Island. I have a place on Vancouver Island as well. So yeah, we just when he finished playing there, we came up here and that's where I started playing my hockey career. At 5 years old, was here in Sycamoose.
Okay, that's beautiful country out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really nice. It's we're about 5 hours from Vancouver, and then we're right in between Vancouver and Calgary in Alberta. So we're just right on that stretch of highway. And it's just surrounded by lakes and mountains, and we have a Shuswap Lake here, and then so we have half the season on the lake and then half the season on Skidoos. It's it's one of Canada's top destination for snowmobiles. So we got a full season of time to play.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. So you got into hockey once you moved back into Canada. Were you always a defenseman?
Well, I'm the youngest of 10 kids, so I started off as a goalie. I started a street hockey career because I didn't have a choice. My brothers just put me in net, and basically we played on gravel too. So, and it was like I would rather get hit by rocks, because if I tried to come out, I was going to get beat up anyway. So I just kind of, I don't know, I didn't really have a position. I was just told where to play, and so it kind of started later on.
You guys had your own team then?
Yeah. There's a ton of kids. And only one bicycle, so it was a challenge. You had to get up. I'm used to always getting up early because I've bed doing it since I've been 5 or 6, just to get on the bike and ride away in the dark.
Well, it was like survival of the fittest, right?
Yeah, it was dangerous. It was Tommy Laidlaw had nothing on Survivor. You should have lived in my house.
Well, I mean, we also talked about that before too. So everybody knows we had Tom Laidlaw on about a month ago, and he was your agent at one time. Yeah,
Tommy. Yeah, and just I love the guy. He's just salt of the earth, and whenever he talks or tells, he's amazing at telling stories and holding court, and he's just a beautiful man. So just to have him on my side and to kind of walk me through life and just be around, I just can't say enough about him. I just love the guy, and I'm glad he's still doing lots of work out in the community. Yeah, he's fantastic. He's also got his shows on YouTube, and yeah, he was just a great guest to have on. So you got your start in the Western Hockey League for junior hockey, correct? I want to say Moose Jaw Warriors where you started, right? Yeah, I was listed by Moose Jaw and ended up playing a couple games with them. Mike Babcock was the coach in Moose Jaw at the time. And, and then I went back and I played a year in the BCHL, and then my rights were traded to Tacoma Rockets. And then I played a year in Tacoma. That's when I got drafted by the Rangers. And then the team moved to Kelowna, which are currently the Kelowna Rockets. Okay. And then halfway through that season, I got traded to the Lethbridge Hurricanes. Wow. So you went on a tour of the Western Hockey League, huh? Yeah, everyone wanted me. It was hard to stay put.
Everybody wanted you for what? You couldn't skate.
Wow. I mean, I just remember Jeremy said that. I didn't.
It's okay. No, those are good comments, except I would rather not skate and have championships than just be second best, right?
Okay. All right. Okay. See, this is
you were so close.
This is why I've missed this man.
Oh, that's awesome. So in your junior hockey days, obviously I know I'd asked you about being a defenseman and all that. Is that where you kind of picked up, say, like being an enforcer, or?
No, that was being born into that family. That was just like everyday life. and that's honestly that's where a lot of that starts, is like it's a rough upbringing with that many kids, and you're always wrestling and fighting, and my brother that's 4 years older than me, like I was always a fairly tough kid because of that. He would always bring his friends over and make me fight him, and we were always boxing, and so I think that kind of starts, like, it's really tough to you see in junior hockey, or people like, well, that guy would be so much better, we got to make him mean, and we got to make him tougher, and the trick to that is don't give your kids stuffies and don't let them share his toys. Like, you can't just be like, okay, we'll go on the ice and now you're an animal. That's not really how it works, right? It's kind of, I've seen guys who were big, tough guys or big guys, and they try to make them fighters. Well, a lot of them ended up getting hurt early or had, we all have injuries, obviously, but unless you learn to really wrap up and roll off stuff and not take, shot after shot, is the only way you can kind of sustain that for a while. Eventually it catches up to all of us for sure. But as far as kind of just having a bit edgy, I think it starts when you're young.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, you says how it catches up to you. I was listening to a podcast with McGrattan a few weeks ago, and he was even saying, he goes, he knows guys, and even him himself, he'll he knows guys that they can't even get out of bed without taking like ibuprofen before they even move for the day, and they're just popping pills all day long. And it's just from the rigorous seasons that they've had from just banging with each other in the NHL. And just, going through the whole league and everything of it, going back and forth and just trying to be that enforcer type that they try to make them be.
Yeah. And like my own example, like I got 3 boys and I'm not kidding you guys. This is no joke. Like my kid, we have like on the property, like my kids have a golf cart and I swear like they wear robes. Like, I'm just like, I'm like, I don't even understand. Like, and my one son said to me last year, he's like, Dad, I think I'm kind of want to relax, and I'm like looking at him. He's wearing a robe. He's telling me to relax, and I said to him, "I'm like, you're gonna live till you're 140." He's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, I've never seen someone relax from relaxing." I'm like, "Your whole life is relaxing." I'm like, these are my kids. I just laugh like nothing. Like it's completely opposite of how I was raised, but it just is what it is, and it definitely makes me laugh. But yeah, like guys. The awareness of guys, a lot of that game has changed. Obviously, we don't have as much of that going on, but, there was a skill to that, right? There was a skill to being tough. And there's so many impact guys that made differences in games when you knew guys were on the bench, and it changes the outcome of stuff. And so, but there's so much sacrifice with that. And there is, there's 3 guys. There's 3 guys that I know personally that are on the streets right now that all played in the NHL, and I'm sure there's more, and sure,
right.
There's so many guys struggling, and it's the awareness of it, and it's hard, right? Like it's hard to understand that these guys that were just such amazing men, and competitors to play against, and guys we played with that are really struggling now from the game we love, and so it's a kind of a give and take thing.
We've talked before, we've talked, Dale and I have known each other for years now. So, and we've chatted about stuff like, especially about the fighting going on in the leagues. And, Dale, what is your take on fighting now compared to then, or even then? Do you think it belongs, or do you think it doesn't belong?
Well, I like, well, let's just talk about like this guy used to put me to bed at night, to be honest. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Put though. I like how you gently pushed us towards that. I don't know. I think about it obviously quite a bit. And like those days, I think for me, one of my favorite players of all time is Wendell Clark, and the way he played, I don't think he could play in the game today because he was just so rough, right? Mm-hmm. But I believe like because I love the way that game's played, and I love that toughness. But if we're gonna really sit down and think about, okay, how are we gonna change this, right? Like, what are we gonna do to prevent these injuries, right? So how do we change it? And I think so much emphasis was put on the fighting part when really fighting's only 10% of the head injuries. Right. What we have to look at, if you do want to change, it's the hitting aspect of it. But there's so many people that don't want that out of there, and we come up with just Band-Aids for it. Fighting keeps guys in line way more, and there's a fear aspect to it. But really, like Sidney Crosby's not going to lose his career from a fight. It's going to be, another dirty hit or a cheap shot or, an elbow to the head. How do we prevent that stuff? Fighting, I think there's still some fights, but it was nothing like it used to be. It used to be scary to be out there, to be honest with you. And
that's what McGrath
I look
said.
At the league, and there's not really one guy who would really scare me. There's some fairly tough guys and great hockey players. Like people talk about hockey all the time, and it's like this new NHL, and I find it hilarious, right? I'm like, okay, well, the new NHL, I was like, when has the draft age changed? Has it always been the same? I said, the reality is it's just a rich kid's game now. Like those kids used to they used to come to our camps, right? And they were fast as hell, but they were so scared when that puck, they went to Europe. But because there's so many rule changes now, that now they're able to play in the game. Well, that was a skill. Like, you had to show toughness, and you had to earn your spot in front of the net. You had to go get pucks out of the corner.
Right.
Now it's and which is fine, like progression, and we have to be adaptable, and I understand that. And we're probably not going to go back to that game. But the reality is, it's not a new NHL, and it's faster because of, guys aren't scared anymore. Like,
right. Yeah. You don't have that.
You're not telling me a guy's
guy anymore.
Well, a guy's not going to dump the puck and go get the puck out of the corner with Chris Simon chasing him down, right? Like,
right.
Mitch Marner crying on the bench because Mike Babcock was hard on him. Mike Babcock's not his therapist or his parent. What he does is prepare his guys to win every single day, right?
Right.
And the way, and Mike Babcock's philosophy is, if you win properly, everything's good for that day, and then we come back to work the next day. If you lose and should have, and should have won, he's okay with that. If you did everything right and you worked hard, he's still going to be mad. But if you win and you should have lost, he's hard on you. Like, he's not. He prepares you to win the Stanley Cup every single day, and that's it. And so we're a little bit soft now, to be honest with you. And the game's changed, but let's be adaptable for that. I don't have the answers either, right?
Weren't you? You said that you were also in Washington, part of the safety guidelines for the NHL for a little bit, weren't you?
Yeah, I went and spoke in Washington in front of Congress and Senate, and so it was actually 3 months after I got out of college to the day I went back into Washington. Jeremy was my professor in college. So when I graduated,
wait a minute, Jeremy was a professor?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Oh, you did not know that.
He taught me a lot.
It was the College of
just not how to win. He taught me a lot, just not how to win. Yeah.
I was going to say, Dale, you might need to get a refund.
I taught you how to win.
Well, he did a lot of nice things for me. I got to watch all the hockey games too, which was awesome. Through the TV, you're like, I'm still paying him though. He's still taking e-transfers. But yeah, like, and it's the awareness. Like, obviously, we're all affected by it, right? But when I was there, I got to be with Montador's dad, and I got to be with Bugard's dad, and we and those were tough stories. Like, those were tough moments that we sat in front of Blumenthal, and they told their stories and told their stories about their sons, and we sat there, and it was really vulnerable and difficult to listen to, and just raw, and you could see the sadness in them that I don't think can ever be fixed, to be honest with you.
Right.
You're losing your sons, and the NHL approached it like all their addicts, right? Instead of being like, hey, these guys were, part of us, and they brought so many fans, and they were unbelievable teammates, and so many good things, but they just wanted to label them and just kind of get rid of the problem and then change the rules on their own rather than being accountable for anything that happened. So
right, they didn't really want to look at the whole CTE factor.
Yeah, and the powerful stories that their dads were telling, like, you can't keep it together. I don't care who you are. I was just bawling like a baby listening to it, for sure. Because these are someone's sons, right? And
sure.
Bugard shot in his dad's arm a couple of days before and just cried and couldn't control himself. And Montador after Montador passed away, I think he had his first son 3 days after he passed away. And this is hard stuff. This is real stuff. And so when we go in front of people and we talk about our experiences, we live in their honor too, and we keep fighting for them. And even for the guys who obviously were in the past, but the guys in the future that don't know that they're heading, some of them are going to head that way, right? And so, and the reality is, a lot of guys didn't jump on board for a lot of different reasons, and that's up to them. But I just think, like, we're not against the NHL. Like, everything we have and our passion was to play in the NHL. We're for the NHL. We just think some of these rules have to change and take care of some of these guys that are really, really struggling, right? So I think it's important that we have a voice, and until we talk about these things and until we continue to march forward, will we ever get close to fixing it on both sides?
Right.
That's a very interesting point, Nell. And I mean, with hockey, it's always going to be a contact sport. Everybody, I think we can all agree on that. But I kind of wonder what your opinion is as far as post careers should the league be doing more for these guys as far as setting up some kind of a program where they can get regular check-ins to say, okay, here's where you were last time, so that you can monitor the progress and make sure, try to catch it early. In other words, if, there's problems with CTE, instead of waiting until it manifests itself, obviously technology evolves all the time and there's, knowledge grows. And that's what I kind of wonder is, I mean, that's great that we're doing everything we can to try to take away, headshots and head injuries in the game. But seeing as that it is a contact sport, of course, I didn't play at the NHL level, of course, but I think post-career is where they really kind of could be stepping up a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll get back. That's why the mind's so powerful. Jared actually thinks he's still in the NHL, but anyway. But the mind.
Well, you're my agent, so I mean, you're good with that.
So yeah, I love you. So
that's why he wanted his own suite last time we played. All right, I get it.
Thanks for taking care of me. So, but all joking aside is the fact, like, this is something where, we can all do our part, right? And I don't know. It's a very challenging thing, right? Because like you said, it is a contact sport. And right. So just like NASCAR, they don't want wrecks. There's going to be wrecks, and there's right. going to always be so much. There's going to be so much injury. If you look at the European leagues, I don't have the numbers, but I don't think they can be. I know Europe doesn't have as many, right?
Yeah, they're not as physical at all. Like you can see the right. change. You can see the guys that come over from Europe. Their game speed is completely. They're gun shy because they know once they get in the NHL rink, somebody's going to bang them, and they're not going to be. Well, Capo Caco is a prime example of that.
Yeah, and they're bigger ice surfaces as well.
Right.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to be free of that, but we just have to, play hard and be respectful of everyone too.
Right.
And even that's hard because our job is to win that cup, right? At any cost. And you got to remember when we're playing and we have that, like, for guys like me who have only a couple shifts, in some of those tight games or early on and you get matched or you get out with, some pretty high end guys and you have a chance to finish your checks hard on them. You're going to, try to do as much as you can to make a huge impact. Right.
Right.
Because that might be your only chance, or that might, continue your contract, or that might, give you, something down the road. And right. So very hard to pull the reins back on anyone.
Sure. Absolutely. So we said earlier that you were drafted in the 5th round at the 1995 draft. Were you at the draft?
I was at the draft. Because it got moved I think it was in Hartford at the time when the Whalers left, I believe. And it ended up being in Edmonton. And so my whole family got to experience it. So, I went in a year early. I should have waited, because I would have probably went 116th or 115th instead of 116th. But
in the 7th round, right?
Yeah. Well, I probably would have dropped, but I was rated in Hockey News in the 3rd round, so I always hold on to that. But then we forgot to add the Europeans, and so yeah. I was like, holy man! But it was an amazing experience because even being drafted by the Rangers, my dad actually went to 4 Ranger camps back when the original 6 was still there. So I got black and white pictures of him in New York when he went to camp. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And John Muckler actually played against him, so they know each other back in the old IHL. And so there's just so many connections in hockey throughout. And so to actually be drafted by New York was amazing. I was ready to retire right then. I made it. I'm done. That's close enough.
It's like playing Jeopardy and only answering the $200 questions, right?
Oh yeah.
So wait, now when you were drafted, who were you on the ice with? That made you look bad, really.
Well, I mean, the whole list, right? I'm not joking. When I went to camp, I was 17 and I come from, basically a small town and lived in Southeast Calgary, and which is a pretty small city. And we go into New York, and then I think our first 8 years were in Burlington, Vermont. So now I'm 17 and I'm literally on the ice with there was Wayne was there, right? And LaFontaine, I think Wayne came a little bit after, but LaFontaine was there, and Mark and Buka, but all these, it was just too much. It was too overwhelming. And I think we only had 4 or 5 D per team. And I'm I like playing 7D, 8D, so it's exhausting. And so you're trying to keep up to these guys, and it's just, it was terrible, right? And Vermont's a big ice, and it's in the end of summer, and it's soft. And so it was a struggle, right? It was not enjoyable one bit. And it was just too overwhelming. It was just it was too much. And then you just kind of got to see how good these guys are and how smart they played. And then you're just and honestly going through your head, you're never going to get there. It's just it's impossible because you can't believe how good they are. It's shocking. People don't get it.
Right. And I remember when, in one of the classes that I had you in, I told you I was going to head out to Madison Square Garden and watch the Ranger game. And I remember they were playing Detroit, and I remember Pavel Datsyuk was there. Yeah. And do you remember what you told me? You told me, you're
yeah. So
get to the
rink
remember
early
I was
get there early and watch them and warm up. And so I always tell people, I'm do you know why Pavel Datsyuk plays in the NHL? And so people are they'll say and I'm because there's no other league for him to play in. That's how good that guy is. And his skill just to watch him, I would go literally and warm up and just sit on the bench and watch his hands, because it was it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And Christian Aselius was like that too, but he was scared. Once the puck dropped, he didn't like the rough going, but he was such a talented, skilled guy that to watch those guys in warm up is just really enjoyable to me, to see them be able to stick handle. I'm more of a dump and chase guy.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to believe.
Dump and chase.
Yeah, off the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I could stick handle here. I could just chip it off the glass.
Yeah.
I'll take that, yeah.
I mean, if you ever took a shot, if you took a shot, did it go over the goalie's head?
Well, these are all learning lessons too, right? And so Brian Leach is a buddy of mine, and he was so awesome to me, and he taught me so much. He said, so he always be you can stay in this game, but you have to be smart on things. He's the way you play and the way a lot of us play is going to be different. So he said, he's I do this too. Whenever I shoot for rebounds. He's yeah, if you score, it's great. But from far out, we have so many good guys. He's you got to hit the net. If you don't have a shot, you can never get your shot blocked. So just put it back down. Unless you're sure and you know it's going to get through, just put it back down and let our guys go for it. So I always would just shoot low and get it in front and everything's super quick, because you can't get your shot. Certain guys can't get their shots blocked, and you can't get, you work that hard to get in that end. You always have to be smart and just positional play and quick shifts. And we got to get our big money guys out there, and you got to know your role in a team. It's just hey, listen, I go out there, do my job, and there's guys that are going to play in front of you regardless, and you take care of them, and it's a big family. But you give up your selfishness to play at a league like that, right? And especially we have to be grateful to be able to play that. You go down to the minors and you're playing a lot more, and you get more situations. Your first line penalty kill all the time, and I always say I was second line power play. That was just because there was 5 seconds left on the clock, and you know how that works. We're good changing the outcome, right? So and my first NHL game, I always use this. So my first NHL game was the last game in the Garden. It was the last game of the year against Philadelphia, and it was my first game. So I came back home and told everyone I finished the season with the Rangers. So it's just how you use your stuff.
Well, actually, in that that's awesome. In that first game, you did get into a fight with Keith Primo. So take us through how that happened.
Yeah, well, early in that game, I tried to fight Berube, and he sucked me in, and I ended up getting 2 minutes. So, and I got him back for that. I did the same thing to him later on in the game. So you just want to like that year. I think I had 36 fights in the minors, and so you want to go make your mark and not get penalized, but so you're playing hard, and so I lined up with. I lined up with one of their forwards, Gagne, maybe. Was it Gagne or
no? Yeah.
I think I lined up with him, and so I cross-checked him, but it kind of came up, and I ended up. The ref put his hand up for 2 minutes, and I'm just like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me! This is nightmare shit." And Keith came at me like he can't. So we got at it. We got wrapped up. I couldn't get out on him, but. That poor guy, it's like, you think the last game of the year before they started playoffs, he wanted to get in a fight, and so you look back at those things and, it was awesome. But then in a way, as you get older, you're like, I should have just kept my stick down and not, you got to be smart with those guys too. Like they were continuing on, and you can play hard without, being a clown either. Right. So That's one of those moments. It was great, but I wish I could have taken it back.
Who did you enjoy fighting the most? Or the least?
Oh man, like you get those questions, right? And I honestly, I always say like this: every guy is just dangerous, right? And every guy's a super competitor. And I don't know, like I think like I got some funny stories, but I got a couple of really good stories. Like we're playing in the Garden against Minnesota. Matt Johnson was playing in Minnesota at the time. So I'm in the corner with him, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go this guy. So I'm like, I two-hand him, and then I give him a huge cross check, and then he turns around, and so he won't fight. And now I'm feeling like my head just, I'm like, oh man, I'm like, he doesn't even want, he knows who I am. Like you go through these things.
Yeah.
And so I go back to the bench, and I'm sitting on the bench, and then I'm waiting for next shift, and the fans were going like, the fans were getting rowdy, right? Because, here I am.
Yeah, they're feeling it.
Yeah, they're feeling it. I'm going after, Matt Johnson and super tough guy, and he's a monster, and I'm feeling really cocky, and then I'm sitting there, and Simon looks down the bench. He's like, hey, and I'm like, I look at him, and he's like, he's got a cast on his hand. His hand's broken. Oh my God. From that point on, I'm like sweat dripping off because I knew we had to play him in like a month and he was going to be healthy. And now I'm just like,
planted
oh my God. Now I'm looking at who we played before him so I can get suspended because this guy's going to kill me. Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. And then he actually challenged me, and I'll be honest, I shit the bed. I didn't want to fight him because he was ready. I wanted to jump him, but I couldn't. He wanted to square off you to beat the piss out of me. Right? So, it was terrible. And Paul Louse is another guy. Paul Louse out of Florida, like, super hard puncher, and he challenged me, and the problem with that is we were in Florida, and I was hung to the tits, right? And I was just like, he would have just ate me alive. I was not feeling it. It was lucky I was even out there. So I wish I'd have stopped. Like I've been in recovery now. I've been sober for almost six years in September. So I just wish I would have had that when I was playing. You know what I mean? Like I would have approached everything so differently.
Right.
But I didn't, and I wasn't fighting Paul Louse because I would have still probably been in Florida. He just looked mean. Like, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's angry. I'm like, I didn't even do anything.
So, I mean, it's a really interesting point too. So how does that work? Do you know basically going into a game who you're going to square up with, I guess, or is it just kind of happen? You know what I mean?
Well, I think we got to. I think for us, like for me, is like I always read the game, and because you have to kind of determine when you're going to pick your fights, and you can't just take every fight, and you always want to, like, lots of times if I knew I was going to go after a guy, or I'd say tell a guy like he needs to quit running around. What I would do is, like, when I knew he was going out there, I would tell, say, one of the D men, I'm like, halfway through your shift, change if you can, because I wanted to get him tired. So when he's at the end of the shift, that's when I wanted to go after a guy.
Okay, gotcha.
And if I'm at the end of my shift, don't ever fight, right? And then if there's a new guy and no one knew him, we'd watch. And this is a rule of thumb. Like, I'd watch guys in warm up, and you kind of watch how he shoots, and then you always wait till he drinks the water, because left-handed fighters drink with their left hand. So, and right-handed drink.
Right,
so,
right.
so we analyze guys, and we're always talking, and you kind of just play it out. And you know, we have buddies on teams, and sometimes we call around and say, hey, like, you know, because some guys are clowns, right? They, like, you know, guys have mortgages and you know, families, and we kind of take care of each other in a way too, right? Like, it's a hard job.
Sure. And
You
those
know,
are the
we
kind of
gotta
analytics I like right there.
Yeah. And
You know what I
so,
mean? What Andy's drinking his
like,
water bottle with. That's great.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's always a plan. There's always a plan to the madness. And lots of times people would, like, even my coaches would be like, oh, you got to control yourself. And, you know, you're undisciplined. And they tell me this, but they didn't realize, it's like, we were playing 3 teams in a row that I jumped like 2 guys on each team. I needed to be suspended, or I was going to die. But they didn't know that, right? So it was all a plan. It wasn't like, hey, you're out of control. It's like, I'm saving my life here. There's big guys, right? Like, I'm 6'2", and I played at about anywhere from 228, 235. That's small. That's small for the guys I was fighting, right? And so when you had 3 guys that were like, you know, 30 pounds heavier than you that hate you, it's time to, you know, pull the pin.
Run away.
Yeah. That's what I always said. I was like, I could get to the bench really fast, and I always worked on grip strength because I just held on for dear life. Strongest forearms in the league. I ate spinach.
So when you guys would go out on the road, what were your favorite cities to play in?
Oh, I always liked, obviously, coming out west because family. But we New York's lucky. Like we were always lucky. The fact, like, every place we would go in, we had, you know, half the fans. Like, there was such a big fan base, and we had so many big name guys that we just always kind of, you know, had a pretty good cheering section wherever we went. But honestly, guys, like, there's just no place like New York. Like, I love that city. I love the people there, and I love playing at home. So, not that other cities aren't awesome. I had fun wherever I went, but honestly, there's no place like playing in Madison Square Garden for sure.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, you played with some real big names. Like, obviously, you played with Messier and Leach. I think you also played with Graves, Lindros.
Yeah, Gravy. Yeah. And Bure and Lindros and Beachy and Malikov, Mironov, like, just like unbelievable players and great humans. So, and then my second agents were Paul and Doug Messier at the end of my career. And, you know, just, I grew up watching these guys in Alberta. Right. So, just so grateful to be on the ice with them and be around them. They're excellent people.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. Keith, you've been a little quiet over there. You got any questions or?
So, hi, Dale. Actually, yeah. So, an interesting story. Yesterday, I was at a family birthday party, and a close friend of the family is a pro golfer, local. And he was sharing a story where there's another local former NHL player in our area who lives locally now, retired. And he was giving him lessons, and he was telling me, like, a lot of what they talked about. And Dale, it's a lot of what you said. Like, he would go out minimal shifts, 2, 3, maybe 4 a game, mainly to make an impression, you know, playing for like his life for a contract. But he made a comment that I thought was really interesting that I still can't understand. He said the superstars, like you're referring to, Dale, he goes, you can look at them, and when they're sitting next to you on the bench in an NHL game, they're thinking 2 plays ahead of schedule, like 2 plays down the road, they're already mentally thinking out how it's going to happen in their minds. Do you think that's true? Like, I was having a hard time picturing that.
No, well, I don't know if it's true. I can't see that because most of them I know are still trying to color between the lines. Like, no one's leaving here to work for Nassau. And they're not like, maybe tic-tac-toe at best, but there's not even checkers going on, let alone chess, right? So the game, if you look at for me, if I look at the game, I can see how, my power play, how you can watch the power play and see how it's working. And maybe you can say, okay, let's try this because they're doing an overload. And so let's roll off into the umbrella and, one-timer's backdoor, right? So I can see how you can break that down. But the game is just such a game where it's like, really, we can have a system, but you have to be adaptable to that system because it's so fast and because it's such an unstable environment. Then you have to read and react as fast as you can. So to really be thinking ahead of time, I don't see that, but maybe that's why I dumped the puck, right?
I think Keith must have been talking to Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, probably.
Well, but he played by himself, right? But, so I have a funny story about him. It's like he was coaching in Phoenix, and Jamie Lundmark, which obviously is a Ranger and went to Phoenix. Jamie would tell me stuff. He's like, I just don't like. Wayne would come down and ask him stuff like, "Why weren't you in this position?" or "Why weren't you behind the net here?" And he's like, "Because if I was back there, I'd be in the stands. Like Wayne Gretzky can stand back there, and everyone got the puck for Wayne." And you didn't really have to be accountable defensively because they make up for you, right? But Jamie Lundmark's like, I can't do that. And so, you know what I'm saying? Pretty tough to coach like that, right?
Right.
That's true.
Imagine if I skated down on a power play, just jumped the bench and went and stood behind the net on the offense. Like,
I think
on the bus to Hartford,
I'd honestly probably be throwing things at my TV going, what the hell are you doing?
Well, if I could go back, I would do things like this because I would just get a YouTube channel, like funny stuff like that. But it wouldn't last long. It'd be just like it'd be a short series. Only if we could go back.
Oh, I know.
That's right.
I know.
That's right. Oh, that's great. That is great. Well, Dale, this has been a lot of fun. This really has. And I can't begin to tell you how much we appreciate you coming on. Have you got anything you got going on right now or?
Well, I mean, that's an open-ended question.
Yeah. Okay. I meant like hockey wise. Are you into hockey at all still or?
Are you a cop? When I finished playing, I coached junior hockey. I've coached in the BCHL, which is Tier 2, which sends guys to college hockey. And then I have 3 boys that play hockey, and I was involved with them, coaching them, and just really like fundamental stuff. Like we got to get back to that fundamental stuff of just like skill work and hockey changed the fact people wanted to start teaching kids systems and stuff, and that's all great. But unless we have the fundamentals as a really strong base, then can we get into those systems? Because if you can't get there, you can't get there. If you can't make a 5-foot pass to a 20-foot pass, there's no reason to get into systems yet, right? And that's where I think compared to like systems like the U.S. program and the Russian program or obviously Finland and Sweden are advancing faster than Canada is because you guys really work on that stuff and you work on your short game so much. And I think we're a little bit behind in Canada. And I think like I also look at hockey and I've kind of been, obviously my voice doesn't really connect with Hockey Canada so much because I go to college all the time. Hey, Jer.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
People overlook some of the stuff that happens, but I look at it like all our rinks are paid for in Canada. It's Canada's national game. If you want the best product, kids in Canada shouldn't have to pay for hockey, and kids you shouldn't have to be wealthy for them to play this game. It's just like, can you imagine if like the NFL, Major League Baseball or soccer or, the NBA, only rich kids could play? It's like, it's not our best talent pool. Like in hockey, if we want a best talent pool to be playing for Canada hockey, then every kid should have the opportunity to play hockey, and it's not happening. And that's why there's been such a change in the international game.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Very
interesting.
I can see that. I can see the rich kid mentality over, or even here in my son's age, and it's
yeah. Well, and in the U.S. though, it still works because the population is so big that the amount of talented hockey players coming out of the U.S. is outstanding right now.
Right.
Like I think U.S. hockey just like I'm not kidding. Like I was born in Indiana, and my dad's Canadian, so I have dual citizenship. So I'm like the biggest turncoat on sports. So in hockey, I always vote for the U.S. just because I know they're going to beat them. Like, and I love to see the Canadians like pout and their bottom lip because they think they should win all the time. And then I always ask the Canadians, I'm like, "What's your NFL team again?" I forget. Like,
so you really enjoyed this year's World Juniors.
There's one NBA team, one at Major League Baseball team. So, it's easy to jump on your side, guys.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's great. That is awesome. Well, Dale, we won't hold you up too much longer here. I'm sure you got other things to get done, but like I said, we really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to talk to us.
I appreciate it so much, and I think we need to do this again, and we have so much more to get into because I got many layers of stuff I want to unpacked with you guys.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. You are welcome back anytime.
I can always, start to unpack for you, Dale, if you really want me to.
Or go through my stuff.
No, we've done that enough.
Well, we'll let you two hash that out. How's that?
It's called rigorous honesty. Rigorous honesty.
Well, they do say that honesty is the best policy, so let's but no, seriously, thanks, Dale. And like I said, absolutely, we'll have you back on anytime you want to come on.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, and truly appreciate it. And Dr. Keith, enjoy those Doritos. They're excellent. Multi-grain, so clearly you're healthy. And keep up the good work, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, Dale, thank you, Dale. A lot, brother.
Take care.
Okay. Yeah. That was Dale Purinton. That was awesome. Jeremy, I did not know you were his professor.
Yeah, well, it's think about where I used to work.
You held out on me.
Well, think about where I used to work.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So you do get that.
Okay. Like, well, I picked up on it later on. Yeah. I was like, okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
He that's how him and I met. He had a short little stint with the county correctional facility, and everybody makes mistakes.
That's right.
I mean, like for what he was in for. He was even told by his attorney that if it happened in Canada, that it would have just been a slap on the wrist.
Right.
But he kind of got in trouble with the wrong name down here, and the name kind of bit him. And hey, as bad as it was for the situation that he was in, I made a great friend out of it. So
absolutely, he's a great guy. Absolutely,
great guy. Like I said, we haven't lost contact since his release, and obviously he's doing well. He's doing real well.
He is. Very good. That is awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to end this segment because we need to go to commercial break. I can see Dave getting nervous over there. So we're going to do, as always, Dad's favorite breakaway trivia. And the question this week is, in what year was the first nationally televised hockey game shown in the United States? The answer when we come back.
Visit My Little Falls and stay connected with the latest news, information, and events in the city. Our mission is to generate interest in the community and connect residents in a more meaningful way by facilitating deeper conversations about how these stories will shape the future of Little Falls, New York. Join thousands of weekly visitors who stay up to date with feature stories, interviews, videos, and our events calendar. It's about timely local news for the community, keeping citizens informed about important issues, telling stories about the people who live and work here, and giving locally owned businesses the opportunity to reach a very targeted audience of local residents and tourists alike. It's a whole new form of media-rich content developed specifically for today's mobile lifestyle and listeners. You can download our iOS app in the iTunes store or sign up for our weekly newsletter. Stop by today at mylittlefalls.com. You'll be glad you did.
And we're back with segment 2 of Marty's Illegal Stick. Now, I was watching phones here in the studio during the commercial break, and I didn't see anybody reaching for them, so that's a good sign. So I'm going to give you guys the question to breakaway trivia one more time, and then I'm going to go around looking for answers. The question is, in what year was the first nationally televised hockey game shown in the United States? Dad, since I know this is your favorite, I'm going to go to you first. Just throw a year out there.
I'm going to go 0 for 23 again. But, I was 5 years old when we got our first TV. That was 1953. And all I ever saw, I only saw two stations. I'm going to go with 1956.
1956. All right, Dave?
51.
51. All right,
I had
Keith.
my mic off. 51. All right.
1951.
I don't know what I was doing. Yeah.
We're loving the 50s today.
Well, there
here
was
we go.
electricity back then, right, Dad?
Yeah.
So
Well,
we're good.
Static electricity anyway.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We did a lot of rubbing back then.
Whoa, well, before the show gets too much further off the tracks, Keith, do you have a guess?
Listen, after that comment, I'm just trying to stay neutral here. Let me think this out. What do we got? 51? Was there a 53 or was it 56?
56.
56.
50, 51. I'd say 50, 52, 53, 53.
53. So you're going with 1953. Okay. Jeremy.
It's going to be way before my time. I'll go with 1950. I'll just go with the
1950.
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't have a TV in 1950.
Yeah, they did.
Well, we don't have a winner this week. It was 1966. At the
Whoa.
first nationally televised game in the
I
United
was the closest.
in the United States. Yeah, you get a quarter point.
Yeah.
So
What?
no, it was seriously for the United States. It wasn't until 1966 that there was a nationally televised hockey game. It was April 10th, 1966, to be exact.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wow.
Game 2 of the Stanley Cup semifinals from the Madhouse on Madison in Chicago. Detroit thumped them pretty good, 7-0. But
So wait a minute. So does that mean if you would have asked the first game anywhere, it probably would have been in the 50s?
it would have been Canada, which I think was 1953.
Ah, that would have been right.
But,
though.
but I said United States.
I know.
I knew the key word in that one was going to be United States. That's what I was like,
Jeez.
My first TV was about the size of this thing I'm talking into here.
We're not talking an oscilloscope. We're talking a
Is
TV.
that why you can't see anything nowadays?
Well, no, it had a great big box and a little screen. That's all it was to it.
Well, yeah, those old TVs it was about a 2-inch screen and they weighed about 5 tons, didn't they?
Well, yeah. But I'll say a 6-inch screen. It wasn't 2-inch.
Sorry. Okay, it's your story. Tell me like.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
Son.
So I want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to throw a little shout out to a few of the UC alumni that have made the splash of coaching in the area this year, or for next season for the Utica Junior Comets.
Good.
A few of them, like Adam Decker and Nick Tarian, they're staying with Utica College, but they're also jumping on board with Utica College or Utica Comets organization in the junior level for goalie coaching. So they'll be over there coaching the youngsters up, everywhere from mite level all the way up to the elite level.
Excellent.
Louis Educati he was named the NCDC head coach for the Utica Comets. And Sean Lynch, he just finished his pro career for, I believe, the Comets. The what did he play? Played in the ECHL. He had to retire. He retired, and I know he came back to coach out in Syracuse. He's a Syracuse originally. He's from Syracuse originally. Now he was just named the Comets' premier head coach. So a few of the Utica College boys are coming in strong.
All right,
the Comets organization.
Utica College kids staying home. Very nice.
That's good. That's real good.
Very nice. Congratulations to all involved. That's great. Okay, so we're going to kick off Hockey Hot. Well, actually, Jeremy just kicked it off for us, so I don't even have to say it. But next on Hot Takes, we want to wish a happy birthday to Vladislav Tretiak. The legendary Hall of Fame goaltender turned 69 on Sunday, April 25th. If you guys recall, Tretiak was just a legendary Soviet goalie. He was pretty much the best goalie in the world.
Say the 80s.
During the 70s and into the 80s.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is that he was actually drafted by the Montreal Canadiens. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. It was 1984 he was drafted. And because of the way everything was set up at the time, obviously, Soviet players couldn't come over.
Right.
And that's actually what led to him retiring from Soviet hockey because he was only 32. And he wanted so bad to come over to Montreal, and they wouldn't let him go. So he basically just said, well, that's it. I'm done. I'm not playing anymore. And you know what's really funny? You think about that for a second. Now, let's say that the Soviet Union did let him come over, and he played for Montreal. What would it become of Patrick Waugh? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's so weird how that works out.
Wow.
Because Tretiak himself said that when he got drafted, he had like 5 good years left. So that would have taken him past 86 when Waugh burst onto the scene by leading the Habs to the Cup. And obviously into 89 when he was the runner-up, but still.
Wouldn't you think they would have stuck with Waugh because he was 10 years younger?
I don't know though, but you got to remember back then
With
Waugh
a name like
rookie.
him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with a name like Tretiak, you'll go with the hot hand, I think.
You would think, but I mean that's just one of those what could have been things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You just don't know. So
You know that could have had an effect on last week or 2 weeks ago in our contest. Would Edmonton have been the team that they were if Tretiak would have went to Montreal?
Right.
Well, they probably wouldn't have played him until the Stanley Cup final.
Right.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
That really
that
could have changed the shape of
Right.
Yeah.
everything.
1 or 2 less cups for them. You're talking a different reality here.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe a Montreal team would have won that Marty Madness contest after all.
Absolutely. Scott, you have any idea what he did after retirement? When we were just talking about post careers, that'd be interesting.
Tretiak basically, for as much as, like they always say that the Soviet Union was very locked down and all that, Tretiak was like a celebrity big time over there. So he was able to live a better life than most.
Yeah.
And now I think he's involved with the Soviet, the national hockey team over there.
Right.
So him and I know Slava Fetisov is actually running the Russian ice hockey program. So I think they're all working together on that. So
Nice.
interesting times.
Interesting.
But anyways, next hot take. The new NHL TV deal for the United States is now complete, and NBC is not a part of it. Turner Sports won the 7-year B package worth $225 million per season, which gives them the Winter Classic for all 7 years and the Stanley Cup Final for 3 seasons. The games will be on TNT and TBS. Did you guys see that awkward rollout they had on the NBA on TNT the other night?
No.
So they were talking about it, right? And they put a graphic up with Alex Ovechkin, and they put Andrew Ference, who was the former Oiler captain, up on the graphic, thinking it was supposed to be like Connor McDavid. They put a guy in there who retired already.
They should stick with basketball and baseball.
Yeah.
Well, then they had Shaq about it. Shaq's like the California Kings and all that. It's like, oh boy, you guys are off to a great start here.
This is going to be a nightmare.
But I do think it's going to be good for the NHL to have the game on as many channels and different platforms as possible. So,
but the thing is TBS and TNT, that's not basic cable.
Still,
NBC is basic cable. So I mean, anybody, anywhere, if you had just a regular, you get bunny ears for an antenna.
But don't forget
a hockey game.
Don't forget, ESPN has also got ABC.
Has also picked that. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and with NBCSN going bye by the end of the year, it was going to be pretty much pointless to stick with NBC anyhow.
Right.
But
is that deal going to have any effect on the cap?
It will eventually. It will, because I think they more than doubled their money they're making off the current deal.
Yeah.
So within a couple of years, you're going to see that cap start really going up. So, and it's going to put a lot of money in the owners' pockets, which I'm sure makes them very happy.
All about the money.
That's right.
Always.
That's right. Oh, so the NHL playoff races are starting to shape up with the top 3 teams in each division looking to be pretty much locks to get in, while the 4th spot in each division is still up for grabs. Now, here's a question for you guys. Should the NHL hang on to this playoff format going into next season, with the top 4 teams in each division making it instead of doing the top 8 from the conference?
Yes. I like it the way it is right there. I really do.
I'm not going to lie. I kind of like it too. I do. I love that whole Obviously, it's not going to be just divisional play next year.
Well, that's the kicker on it, is that it's right now it's just divisional play. So are you going to look at it with more games, and are you going to have the same amount of games within the division that matter, or is it just going to be like it is overall, points here and points there in record? You know, I don't know. It's good. That's a good question. I don't know how I would like to see it.
Yeah, because I mean, they always say, well, it's better competition when it's the top 8 in the conference, but still, it's 1 seed versus 8 seed, which is even more potential for a blowout. 2 versus 7, so.
I mean, but Scotty, you got to understand. I mean, hockey's a very finicky thing. You may be the 1 seed, but you may go cold, and the 8 seed may be the 8 seed, and they may go hot.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean,
but that could also happen
never
to
know.
a division winner against the 4 seed out of the division too.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's just I mean, you're talking about. I'm kind of looking at the Rangers right now are close. They're very, very close right now.
Right.
And obviously, this series with the Islanders is huge.
Oh yeah.
If they take care of business with the Islanders, it pretty much it gets them into the 4th spot with a little bit of help from Boston. Obviously,
well, that's if
we've already.
Out. Yeah.
And
they had been.
We're only 6 points, I believe, away from the Islanders right now.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, the Islanders have gone cold. So
I mean, if we take those 2 games, there's our 6 points.
Right.
So we've tied now with the Islanders. If Boston loses, if Boston loses or wins, we're already tied with the Islanders. So we're tied for 4th.
If you win out.
If we win out.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just I guess maybe I would like it to keep the playoff format the same way.
I would,
because without that,
absolutely
right. Because without that format, you don't have this, sprint to the end.
That's right. When you start the season, you got to be in that top 4. Period.
Right.
And especially now, because there's going to be 8 teams in each division starting next year. So it's not like it was back in the 80s when they did this, and there was 5 teams in each division, so like 1 team didn't make it.
Right.
So, what do you think, Keith?
Well, how many more games are left in the season? I was just looking up.
Roughly
About 10 for each team, yeah.
Well, I'm trying not to since my team went cold. But, so, the point of coming on is to be happy and joyful, and for some reason I'm not.
You're angry.
Take another Tostito.
Yeah, that's right.
Being on this show makes my day at work happiness.
We're here for you, Keith.
Yeah,
We're here
thanks.
You were all happy a couple weeks ago when the Islanders were winning.
Well, listen, wise guys. They're getting cold. There's such a thing as being cold at the right time. But better now than later.
They're just saving it. They're saving it, right?
Yeah, but they're saving it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? He's got a good point, because all of a sudden now the Rangers are getting hot. And it seems that every single season the Rangers get hot, and then they make the playoffs, but then they don't do anything after that.
They burn themselves out.
They burn themselves out. Exactly.
Right.
They burn themselves out. And
Right.
I think it's the stress level of trying to get into that spot or into that playoff. And then it's like, all right, we're here. We've made it. Well, no, you didn't make it. You got to keep going. You got to keep winning, and you got to get to that Stanley Cup final and win the cup. I mean, yes, they're a young team. Yes. I mean, I won't be disappointed if they make it or if they don't make it. I mean, they're young. If they place 5th right now and they place 5th as the team that they have, that's an accomplishment for the season. For the season that they've had. 2 for the team that they have, how young they are, and look at what the future holds. I mean, there's no way that you can honestly put them in a 5th, 6th, 7th spot next season.
Oh, they said the same thing about Philly this year, though.
Yeah.
Most likely they won't be there, but I mean, you can't say for sure, because Philadelphia's one was really surprised me this
season this year, Scott, and you can't.
No, but what I'm saying is that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
I would think they'll be in the playoffs next year, speaking of the Rangers. But all I'm saying is that Philadelphia was supposed to be dominant this year. And they just went right down the toilet. Yeah. So
I think the surprise team in the East right now is the Islanders. I mean, they have a great team. Yeah. They have a great team, yes, but you got Boston. Boston, you knew was going to go. Washington, they seem to always get older, but they always seem to figure it out and get younger legs somehow.
How to win.
Yeah. And you got the Islanders, you got Philly, and you got the Rangers. And I mean, I don't. and Pittsburgh. I mean, there's you go. There, that could be your 4 teams right there. I mean, it's a brutal Eastern division that the Rangers play in. I mean, you don't know who or when or what is going to go hot or cold. And like you said, Philly right now is a very cold team. They pretty much sold out and said, all right, yeah, we're done. We're looking forward to next season. But
that's why I'm on the fringe about the 1-4 versus the 1-8.
Yeah.
Because if you're a Ranger fan, if you go with the 1-8, they're in, and maybe rightfully so, because they could be left out to a team in the other division that isn't as good as them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. And you're right.
Like the same way as saying both number ones, the other division's number 1, maybe a 4.
Right.
In the 1 through 8. And I'm not sure if that's balanced or not.
Nah, yeah, you're right.
But I'm talking not just the divisional schedule. I'm talking about next year.
Next year, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point as well.
Well, we should see what the NHL Board of Governors thinks.
Maybe we should try to cast our vote and see what they say.
Click. Just a quick update on our Utica Comets. The Utica Comets are in 4th place in the AHL North Division with a winning percentage of .583. The Comets are home this Friday night against Rochester, and then on the road Sunday against Syracuse, and Monday night in Rochester before returning home to the Adirondack Bank Center next Wednesday against the Syracuse Crunch. I don't even really think they've announced a playoff format for the AHL yet, have they?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So
the Comets are on right now, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah. But by the time this is out, that game will be well over. So
right.
That's what's kind of weird about doing a game or doing a show, and then a couple days later it comes out.
Yeah.
But
I haven't heard anything about the playoff format for them.
It's going to be a surprise. They're not going to make an announcement. Okay, they're in. That's it. So
all right, we're in. Bubble time. See you. Bye.
And we're going to wrap up this segment with our website of the week. Website of the week is brought to you by 315hockey.com. 315hockey.com is your news hub for all levels of hockey in Central New York. This week's website of the week is smallsaves.com. Small Saves is a hockey comic strip written by James DeMarco and features a goalie named Small Saves. I just interviewed this guy with Barry Shelley on the Rink of Dreams the other night, and it's really interesting. You got to check this website out. It's really, really neat. There's a little goalie, and he's always kind of getting himself into trouble, and it's funny. So need a laugh, check it out. So okay, so that's going to do it for Hot Takes. We're going to go to another commercial break, and then when we get back, we're going to take a ride on that Zamboni Time Machine. We'll see you in a minute.
Need to find that gift for someone special? Visit Little Falls Presents at the Stone Mill and Canal Place. Stop by today to find unique artist work, t-shirts, coffee cups, gift towels, greeting cards, tote bags, koozies, and original oil paintings and prints. It's all about the art of the gift. For more information, visit mylittlefalls.com/shop or call 315-508-5310 for details.
And we're back with the last segment of Marty's Illegal Stick. And as always, it's time to go on the Zamboni Time Machine. The Zamboni Time Machine is brought to you by Zamboni.com, and the Zamboni name is used with permission. This week, the Zamboni Time Machine takes us back to June 12th, 1983, the day boxing legend Muhammad Ali fought an NHL enforcer. Muhammad Ali is considered by many to be the greatest boxer who ever lived. Known for his blazing speed, incredible technique, and, of course, his big mouth, Ali was a legend in his own time. In 1983, he was 41 years old and past his prime, but he was far from out of the spotlight. At the same time, Dave Semenko of the Edmonton Oilers was one of, if not the toughest enforcer in the NHL. Semenko was about 6'3" and weighed about 200 pounds, and his primary job with the Oilers was to make sure no one messed with Wayne Gretzky. Another one of Semenko's teammates on the Oilers was Mark Messier, who had an uncle named Larry who happened to work in public relations. Larry Messier came up with the idea to have Ali fight Semenko in a boxing match. Ali was hesitant at first, but agreed after it was decided the profits from the fight would go to charity. Semenko agreed almost instantly and actually trained for the fight with a former Canadian boxing champion. So the fight was scheduled for June 12th at the Northlands Coliseum, which was then the home of the Edmonton Oilers. Prior to the fight, Ali came up with one of his trademark poems about his opponents. And this one went, and I'm going to try to do this in Muhammad Ali's voice, so bear with me.
There we go.
You ready?
Okay.
Yeah, hit cut.
And that's the other.
You got it all around.
Here we go. We're gonna...
Thanks, Dave. And just for that. So the poem went, Ali comes to meet Semenko, but Semenko is starting to retreat. If Semenko goes back an inch further, he'll end up in a ringside seat. That's what you're doing.
What's that?
Dave, you want to try that?
No.
Yep. Totally off the rails.
So who are you trying to imitate?
I was trying to do a Muhammad Ali voice. Trying.
Muhammad
work.
Ali.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyways.
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. So it was obvious Dave Semenko did not have a boxing background, as he came to the ring wearing a bathrobe that had to be literally cut off because they couldn't get the sleeves around his boxing gloves. The 3-round exhibition was actually kind of an anticlimactic, as neither man knocked the other one down, and the fight ended in a draw. And that, my friends, concludes this week's trip on the Zamboni Time Machine. Which
And
took
we
about
got
10 minutes
some.
longer than it was going to, but that's okay.
That was funny.
I'm not gonna. No comment.
Oh,
comment.
God.
Really? Oh, come on.
I mean, you. All right, fine. All right, I'll critique the imitation.
No.
You need some work.
Well, you notice I don't do that often.
Nice try.
Well, hey, I mean, I could wear a bathrobe next episode. Okay.
No.
I'll wear a bathrobe to the next episode, just like Dave Semenko. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, you drive yourself down.
Yeah.
You ain't get my car with a bathroom.
I'm going to have boxing gloves here next time.
That's perfect.
There you go.
Yep.
Oh, well, I think that's going to about do it for this episode. I think we went a little over our hour time limit, but that's okay. Rob will forgive us.
No, he won't.
Probably not. But anyways, I want to just remind everybody, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Marty's Illegal Stick Hockey Podcast, and you can find us on the web at martysillegalstick.com and mylittlefalls.com. We want to thank Dale Purinton for coming on. For Leo Kinville, for Dave Warner, for Jeremy Roberts, for Keith Labatino, I'm Scott Kinville. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.